The story that comes to mind before we go to the next passage, the story that comes to mind is David and Goliath. And I know everybody knows the story. It's a long chapter in 1 Samuel 17. It's a long story, everything that happens. Again, there's a zillion messages to be preached from that chapter. But at the very end of the chapter, after he's wiped out Goliath and the king has been impressed, King Saul, oh my goodness, can't believe somebody actually did that. All is said and done. He chops off Goliath's head with his own sword. Tons and tons of messages. Wonderful. The very last verse of the chapter, they're wondering, who is this guy? Who is this kid? Now, you would have thought Saul would have recognized him because he had ministered to Saul. You might, if you go back and read it, the previous chapter, he's ministering to Saul. He's playing his guitar. The demons are leaving Saul. He doesn't play his guitar. The demons return. But he was familiar with David. David was no stranger to him. But now he's looking at David and he's saying, who is this guy? It's fascinating, isn't it? How could you look at the same person and not know him the second time? Unless you're looking kind of like at two different sons. One is son of this world and one is son of God. Then they don't look at all alike. Then your eyesight is actually. And at the very end of 1 Samuel 17, when they're saying, who is that guy? And they ask David, who are you? He doesn't even say, I am David. He says, I'm a son. Now, he says, I'm a son of Jesse, your servant, the Bethlehemite. But the inference is the same one with Christ. It's the same one. Who are you? Who are you? And it's not, I am Steve, son of Steve and Josie. Who are you? I'm a son that didn't know I was a son until Jesus told me I was a son. I had a father in heaven. I didn't know that. That was a huge awakening to me when I found out, actually, I've got a father. That the prayer, our Father who art in heaven, he was serious about that. He is our Father. He wasn't joking. That's your father. That's your real father. And you're really his son and daughter. Which is why when he looks at you, he says, sweet, sweet. We look at ourselves, and all we've done is the son of John. We can't even look in the mirror. They say, well, why are you looking at the son of John? Why do you keep majoring on that? What's your deal with the son of... Come here. You're my son. Let me show you the way I see you. Why don't you break a few mirrors so you can never look at who you think you are again? Go ahead, smash them. So you can finally see your reflection in me. Anyway, the only point I'm trying to make, I hope I have, is that on a daily basis we do struggle. And we're kind of like bouncing back and forth from Son of John to Cephas, if you would. From Son of John to Little Rock. And it's just like, hold on. It's your call, your decision. You are my son. You are my son. Let's go to Matthew 4. It appears to be the second calling. I say calling in the sense of Peter encountering Jesus and going a step further. Instead of just being told, this is actually your identity, who you should be identifying with, your identification. It goes a step further. In Matthew 4, verses 18, 19, and 20, just 3 verses.
And Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw 2 brethren, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he saith unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Keep going.
The 18, 19, and 20?
Okay. And they straightway left their nets and followed him.
Right. And that's a good reading there. Simon called Peter. Simon, son of John, who's called Peter. Jesus has already called him Peter. So Matthew's recorded, okay, Simon called Peter. Jesus encounters them. And now it goes beyond saying, it's not like, I told you were Peter, for crying out loud. It's nothing like that. He sees them actively involved in their normal routine, if you would, a natural thing to do, to go to work. They're fishermen, that's what they do, is fish. But he says, follow me, and I will make you into what I originally had intentioned for you. It's not a put down that what they're doing is wrong or anything. They're fishermen. They're born generations of fishermen. That's what they do. But it's like saying to them, you're a fisherman, son of John, but Cephas, you shall be fishers of men. As you look through the Bible, which we won't go through today, but it's always interesting to find, and you see the natural profession, like David. He's out in the field. We mentioned David. He's out in the field. He's taking care of sheep. God calls him out of that to make him to take care of the sheep of Israel on a larger scale. And you can always see these kinds of things. It's a worthwhile, I don't care what age we are, Joshua, you got the advantage back there, but whatever age we are, to take a good look at this natural gifting and talent that God's given us. I challenged people in England, sometimes got myself in trouble. There was a woman in the church that was a teacher, and she was too tired on the weekends to work with the Sunday school kids. I said, well, that's great. So you're teaching your brains out all year long, and the spiritual mother that God's created you to be, to bring the truth of God into their lives, you don't have time for. You're exhausted. Now you want to come to church and feed me, feed me, feed me. Well, that's okay. I mean, you can get on with that and do that, but it is kind of a shame that you're a spiritual teacher who's giving yourself over to something else, and the real calling and the thing on your life you're not applying yourself to. That's just kind of unfortunate and kind of sad in a certain respect. Not shamey, just the way it is. Now, in this passage, he calls them and he says, follow me, makes them that promise, I will make you. I will make you. How many of us in here are continuing to try to make ourselves into something? To be honest, honestly, I got to do this. I've got to make myself into something. And he's like, I never told you to make yourself into anything. All I told you was to follow me. I will make you. What is it about I will make you? Because I'm a creator, I'm pretty good at it. I will make you something. Why do you keep thinking that you've got to make yourself something? It's funny, isn't it? And you hear the words, and we hear them when we know it, and then the first chance we have to create ourselves kind of like thing, we go about this mindset and this thing of, I've got to do this. Okay, son of John, have a field day. Instead of saying, wait a minute. All he said to me was to follow him, and he would do the rest. He would make me. That's what he said. Now, he's either telling the truth, and he's got a plan that he's going to put into effect to do exactly what he said he's going to do, or he's not telling the truth. It's a gimmick. I don't know. The more and more I've said this so many times on Sunday mornings, Saturday nights, whatever, the more I keep reading the Word, the more I keep hearing how much I didn't understand for so long. Somehow I ended up with these other messages. I don't even know where they came from. All I know is when I hear the truth of God's Word, he just becomes bigger and greater in my eyes, and I know his love more and more. And I feel more secure than ever before. And I'm so clear to see when I'm acting out Son of John, or see, it just all becomes very clear. And it's all in the Word. It's just the Word, the Spirit speaking from the Word. Nets can be a variety of different things for any of us. For these guys, they're living. But it could be anything, our nets. It says that they were casting their nets and then they left their nets. And I guess my second point is simply deciding, whose net we're going to cast, for what reason. It's not saying that everybody in the room should, leave their jobs tomorrow, quit school, whatever. It's not what we're saying. It's quite the opposite. Where you are there's a net to be cast. The question is, it's not whose I am, but the question is the net that I'm casting for my own purposes, my own gain, for me, mine, I, it goes on and on and on, for what I can get out of it. Got to get in position, jockey for position. I'm not being treated fairly. This is not right. I can go on and on and on what the nets look like. And it's like, well, go ahead, John. Just keep throwing that one out there. Just keep building that personality and that character. See the fruit that it bears eventually. Or are we going to be the fishers of men that Jesus talked about? And someday we'll talk about that a little bit more maybe. For now, I'll just say, basically, Jesus turned them from fishermen to fishers of men. He just said, you always threw nets. Now you're going to throw yourself. You're actually the bait. Welcome to the kingdom. You're the bait that they're going to bite on. And if they're not biting, it might be because you don't taste so good. That's where we live on a daily basis. Am I busy casting nets for kind of like my own gain, my own whatever, or am I willing to just jump into the sea as the bait? Because that's what Jesus did. He jumped into the sea of humanity, and he's the bait. And he says, I'm the bread of life. Let's have a good meal. It's on me. It's a bit like that. So we're looking at who we are in Peter. The challenge, they leave their nets, but we're going to see in Luke 5, the next passage we're going to, they return to their nets. So I'm not trying to, what I'm talking about today is kind of like just some stuff that I think on a daily basis, they're kind of healthy questions. They're not words of condemnation or any of that garbage. They're just healthy questions. Reminders to ourselves that if we can possibly stop and not instinctively be a son of John, if we can actually stop for that moment and remind ourselves who we are in Christ, who Christ is in us, that we're sons, sort out our identification, and then instead of demanding our rights kind of thing, that we're able to feed. The way you catch fish is with bait. And so if you're going to be involved in drawing men, it'd be nice to think we just could throw out a net, and just drag them in, Come on, you're going to get yourself saved. That is much easier. I'll give you the gospel of prosperity. You're supposed to be rich. Come on. Come on in here, nice and rich. You're never going to be sick. I'm going to give you a doctrine on healing that'll blow your mind until the first time you get sick. Wait till you see the glory. Every morning you're going to see the glory. You're going to rise in the morning. I've seen way too much and I've heard way too much to understand the reality of what Jesus was actually showing us. And that's what this is who we are. This is who we live. It's not a baby's message by any means. If you just want candy, this is not good. If we want to learn something from the brothers and sisters that have gone before us and pour our lives out into this world that so desperately needs to be caught, so to speak, these could be helpful. In Luke 5, the first 11 chapters of the verse, we've seen in John 1, Peter never says a word, which is unlike Peter. He's always shooting off his mouth. But in Luke 1, or in John 1, he doesn't say anything. Andrew brings him. Jesus makes the announcement. You're the son of John. You'll be called Cephas. You're a little rock. In Matthew 4, Peter still doesn't say anything. But he does leave, apparently, his fishing business. And he's following Jesus, leaves his nets behind.